Well, hello there, everybody. Happy Sunday morning, and welcome to a brand new edition of On to the Next One. There we are. We are live. The matchmaking crowns are back following. I don't know how to describe UFC 304. Very strange would probably be the best way to describe it if we think about the totality of the card. But we have a new welterweight champion. We will have to remember his name now. His name is Belal freaking Muhammad. He goes out there and dominates Leon Edwards and is the new welterweight champion, silencing a lot of critics in the process. Tommy Aspinall continues to do Tommy Aspinall things. What is in store for the heavyweight division? What is in store for the welterweight division? What is in store for the lightweight division after Paddy Pimblett did the thing and put Bobby Green to sleep with a nasty triangle choke in the featured bout? We'll discuss the what's next for those three fighters and more on today's program. I am Mike Heck, and joining me as always, the co-host, the co-matchmaker, the prince of positivity, my best friend, and a man who has told me before we went live here, he's got some spicy takes. He is the one and only Alexander Kaylee. AK, how are we doing on this Sunday morning, my friend?
My best friend, Mike Heck, we're doing great. We're doing great. I got mostly good feelings after UFC 304. This is one situation where I wonder if they should have gone interim title over welterweight title, over undisputed welterweight title. I feel like they've maybe done this before. That was very rare, and I'm glad. I'm glad they gave Leon and Belal the respect they deserve. But often heavier weight classes when it comes to titles take priority over lower weight classes. So they could have gone by that justification. They could have gone by the justification that they felt, Tommy was very likely to get the win over Curtis Blaydes more so than Leon over Belal. I don't know. Hard to predict the future. Could have gone the other way too. Who knows? Maybe Leon would have beat Belal and maybe Blaydes would have beat Tommy with like 5 rounds of wrestling, and then you would have had a similar negative reaction from the Manchester fans. Excuse me. And but I don't think, because we had the broadcasts themselves were acknowledging that people were leaving during it was that bad. Fans were leaving during the Belal Leon fight. It wasn't going Leon's way, so a lot of people were just trying to beat traffic at that point. It's like your footy team being down 4-0 at the 75th minute. But I think there's less chance of that happening with Aspinall, right? Because think of it, as long as Aspinall's a heavyweight fight, even if he was getting out wrestled for 2.5 rounds, I think fans would have stuck around for the chance of a knockout or some finish out of nowhere, because it is the big boys. It can end at any time. So I don't know. That's my one take so far, Mike. We'll go through some more as we go through our matchmaking, go fight by fight. But what do you think? Do you think they should have tried to predict anyway, that Aspinall would have had a better night and gone with him last?
That's why the interim title is dumb. We talked about this on the post-fight show. And look, I think all of us, when they booked this interim title fight, knew we would be in this position. This isn't a surprise to anybody that we are here right now. So what I was saying and what I landed on eventually is that no more interim champion. And I also understand the value in having 2 champions in the heavyweight division. One's like the workhorse, the intercontinental heavyweight champion who just fights and fights and fights. The other guy just kind of fights the prize fight he fights, the special attraction fights, if you will. So just call them co-heavyweight champions. They're both in the same level, the same category. Both titles mean the same in the thing. And the reason why Tom didn't is because of that freaking interim thing. If he's just the co-heavyweight champion, he's the main event. Fans go home happy. He does it in a minute, an electric ending, and then it's all good. But the UFC just has these unwritten rules that we have to do a title fight on every card unless Conor McGregor fights. And if the interim championship fight is one of 2 title fights, it cannot be the main event. Even if it's the better weight class or the higher weight class, even though we know one fight's going to end abruptly much quicker than the other, just call him the co-heavyweight champion. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit? You know what I mean?
You're right. I didn't even think about that. We've complained a lot about Tom not being the just flat out heavyweight champion, because if he was, we wouldn't be having this discussion. They would put the heavyweight title over the welterweight title. They have traditionally done this. You very, very, I'm sure there's a time I'm not remembering but you very rarely see in a situation where there's multiple undisputed title fights and one of those is a heavyweight title, the heavyweight being the co-main. It just doesn't work. The title of baddest man on the planet always has to close the show, and we would have had that. Again, I can't criticize the UFC too much for not being able to predict the future. There's all kinds of scenarios that could have gone the other way. Maybe Leon beats Belal. Maybe Blaydes finds a way to beat Aspinall, and then you're still having this kind of dreadful feeling for the hometown crowd. So it's not criticizing the UFC, just a curiosity thing. Like, oh, how different it could have been if we'd had a more conventional lineup where the heavyweight fight goes last, but not the UFC's fault. They did the right thing by putting Edwards and Muhammad last, but it did lead to an awkward scene. Again, you rarely hear the broadcast acknowledge that the fans are leaving, but again, apparently it was happening so en masse and I guess was so obvious and probably pretty distracting that they just had to address it. So, but overall, I thought a good card, Mike.
Yes. So here's how today's program is going to work. We'll talk about each of the main card fights in order. We'll do some matchmaking for the fighters. When we talk about certain fights, if you guys have comments you want to chime in with on that specific fight we're talking about, we'll throw some up on the screen. And then at the very end, once we go through our wild card picks, then we'll do a little wild card free-for-all round where we pull up your comments, your matchmaking suggestions, the super chatters, get bumped up to the top of the line, and then we'll go to just before 11 a.m. Eastern because, well, I got to check out of this hotel and get ready to drive back to South Carolina. So we will begin. AK will be back in a moment. Scott was asking, when was the last time an interim champion was elevated to the undisputed title? Robert Whittaker was the last one. He was the interim middleweight champion. GSP beat Michael Bisping to become the UFC middleweight champion. GSP called it a career. Henceforth, Robert Whittaker gets upgraded to the undisputed champion. So I think we have...
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry.
Okay, he's back.
Movie magic for you guys. I may look more high res now. Just forgot to use the proper camera. So
spectacular.
There you go.
So look, yes, thank you, Goblinicus. I opened the window. You get the nice brick wall behind me here in the hotel. All right, look, let's get into this thing. We don't need to spend a lot of time here. I mean, we can obviously... what is happening here? Okay, there we go. We can obviously talk about the performance and everything, but we'll talk more about this. Leon Edwards no longer the welterweight champion. Belal Muhammad is the welterweight champion. This is a good performance. This fight was a lot more fun, I guess. It wasn't the most thrilling affair, but it was, I think, a lot more fun than people thought it might be. I scored it 4-1 for Belal Muhammad. I thought it was a pretty dominant performance. I think Belal brought his A+ game to the table. I also don't think Leon Edwards brought his best either. I don't want to take anything away from Belal, but Leon just didn't look good. And then once he got spiked on his head, that was kind of it. So Belal's the champion. It seems so obvious where he goes from here. It just makes all the sense in the world that he fights Shavkat Rakhmonov, AK. This is the fight to make. There's not, the band is just, they haven't even plugged in the instruments. But I got to tell you, a lot of people reaching out to me talking about the post-fight show on the UFC and that how Laura Sanko and Dean Thomas and others were clamoring, screaming, all fired up that there is no other person who deserves this shot more than Kamaru Usman. And I am just thinking to myself, why? The man has lost 3 in a row. And we're just going to give him a title fight because the man who beat him twice is no longer the champion? What the hell is going on here? What is happening? Kamaru Usman, 3 losses in a row with welterweight looking as good as it is right now with all these emerging contenders on these impressive streaks. We're going to give it to Kamaru Usman? What the hell is going on here? It's Shavkat Rakhmonov. What the hell is going on?
Maybe they know something we don't, Mike. I don't know, because these are broadcasters that I respect, and maybe they're just showing respect to Kamaru. Kamaru is not retired. Kamaru is. I know he took that one fight at middleweight with Hamza, but he never indicated that was a permanent move. So as long as he's lingering at 170, he is going to be in title talks. He is only going to want big fights. So maybe this is their way of sort of talking it up of preparing him, of giving Belal a legacy fight. I hate even talking about that now. He just won the title. He should fight Shavkat. Shavkat is the number one contender. Again, maybe they know something we don't. Is there some other matchup for Shavkat in the works that we're not aware of? I can't imagine. But to not even bring it up is strange. Again, I shouldn't say that they didn't necessarily bring it up. I did not see that segment. I did hear people talk about this. So I hope the Shavkat was at least mentioned, and then they had some reason for pushing for Kamaru instead. But Belal's probably going to do it too. To Belal's credit, he mentioned a lot of challengers in his post-fight press conference with the media. He mentioned Shavkat, he mentioned JDM, he mentioned Ian Machado Gary. I don't think he mentioned Kamaru. I'm very glad he did not go that route and suggest like, oh yes, I got to start building my name on the greats. He did say something about like, oh, I want to beat the older welterweights too, but he said that after, saying like, give me like the fresh run of challengers that are coming up. So I don't like that, Mike. Don't like that Kamaru talk. We shouldn't be surprised at all if it happens. The UFC does this all the time. Let's not be crazy. They love pass. Belal knows this himself. Belal has been passed over for guys who probably shouldn't get title shots. Like I know we had to do the Colby Edwards, Leon Edwards fight. I get it. There was so much heat there, but Belal should have gotten that title shot in the first place. It never should have been Colby. So this is how the business works. I'm sure Belal will fight whoever they ask him to, and I'm sure he'll be happy if it's Kamaru because Kamaru has a bigger name than Shavkat. But no, it shouldn't happen.
You're going Shavkat, right? Like
I'm going Shavkat. Yeah, we're not queuing up the band here. I'm going Shavkat. I actually have a poll up. I got a poll up for the people.
Okay.
How many times will Belal successfully defend his UFC title? Right now, 0 is leading Mike at 53%. Presumably, because I think a lot of people like you and I are going Shavkat. I think we all see Shavkat as a dude he's going to win the title sooner rather than later, and I'm thinking most likely sooner.
Yes, Kamaru Usman should fight Ian Gary. That is the fight. Just go ahead and do that. JDM can fight, I don't know, somebody else.
Yeah.
We'll get him there. But yeah, it's just kind of what this division is right now. Like if Ian wants to get a title fight, throw him in there with Kamaru. And honestly, to me, if they want to give Kamaru a title shot, I'm fine with it. Just get a win first. I don't care if they do Kamaru versus Wonder Boy and he beats Wonder Boy. Like that to me is enough. Give him a win first, then do it. If they announce Kamaru Usman is fighting Belal Muhammad this year before Shavkat, I'm going to lose my mind.
Mike, please.
I'm going to lose it would be the only other thing that would anger me more is if they gave Michael Chandler the lightweight title shot over Arman Sarukian. That would the reaction I will have will not be pleasant.
Mike, don't do this to yourself. Don't do this.
Yeah.
See, this is what Laura Senko and company are
No one's asking for this. No one's asking.
They're just trying to prepare you. They're just trying to prepare you for a possibility. So that you should be thanking Laura and the team because they're just they don't want you to freak out, Mike. They're not the ones who are making this fight happen. They're letting people know this fight is a distinct possibility. They are preparing.
Just get one win. Just get one win. I don't care who it is. Get one win, and then you can fight for the belt. I'm okay with that. Now, AK, let's go to Leon Rocky Edwards because he ain't getting a rematch here. Belal said he's gonna have to wait 3 years to get a rematch. Dana didn't seem all that excited about it. Leon wants to come back by the end of the year. A lot of fun options for Leon Edwards. Maybe you do Ian Gary versus Leon Edwards. Maybe you do JDM versus Leon Edwards. Maybe you go elsewhere. Where did you go for Leon Edwards?
Leon is the UFC's like worst nightmare right now because he is clearly good enough to beat anyone in the UFC. I was going to say anyone outside the top 5, really, literally anyone in the UFC. But he is not a champion that I think they loved. Again, he goes to decisions a lot. That doesn't make him a terrible champion, but the UFC likes to highlight reel. They either want you just straight up dominating for 5 rounds if it's going to be that way in an exciting way, or can you get a finish somewhere in the first 3 rounds? Give us something to work with, or can you be a great trash talker? And Leon is none of these things. He's just an excellent fighter, which, in a perfect world, that's all that would matter. This is prize fighting. This is MMA. This is combat sports. We know that's not all that matters. So yeah, what do you do with this guy? Because you don't want to knock off other contenders, right? You don't want to put him in there with Jack Della Maddalena. I certainly thought about that, but I'm like, there's a very good chance he beats Jack Della Maddalena. And maybe you take that risk. Maybe, because if JDM beats him, boom, instant title contender. But if he loses, sets JDM back a little bit. And maybe that's a headache the UFC doesn't want to deal with. Again, and there's other names. We said Ian Machado Gary. We said, again, Shavkat's the one that makes sense. There's other guys that are streaking. So I had to just keep going down the list, like guys he hasn't fought already, guys that make sense. And I kind of landed on another veteran in a fight that might not be great. But also, I think if you're Leon, you take this fight for the name value. You take it if you want to get back in there as soon as possible. I'm going Wonder Boy, Mike. I'm pulling the Wonder Boy card here. I think we could see that happen. I don't know the next time they're going back to England. Obviously, it'd be a great fight for that kind of situation. By the way, also the next time they go on the road, certainly not something you throw in the Apex. Obviously, I think that would just be a horrible thing to do. But I think you use this to bolster one of your upcoming pay-per-views, one of your upcoming even fight nights that are on the road. Not a sexy matchup, but again, guys, there's a lot. They got to be very tricky with Leon because they don't want to derail another contender. So yeah, there are better matchups on paper, just not necessarily matchups that I think are so beneficial to the UFC or the person that Leon ends up fighting.
AK is a well thought out, well researched, great pick right there, but it's wrong. It's wrong.
Fair.
I see all the suggestions in here, all wrong. See all the suggestions on Twitter, all wrong. You're all wrong. You're all wrong because there's been a fight that has just been right there waiting for us for all these years. And the one thing that's really been holding it back is the fact that Leon Edwards had the belt when the timing could have been at its best point. And you just couldn't throw this guy into a title fight because it just didn't make sense. But now you can do it. It'd be a special little attraction. And if you don't do it now, you never, ever, ever will have the opportunity to do it again. The man is still under contract with the Ultimate Fighting Championship. It is finally time to wrap up this three-piece and a soda storyline. Let's get Jorge Masvidal back inside the octagon, and let's do this. Leon Edwards versus Jorge Masvidal. Because who gives a shit? Let's just do it. Leon's in sort of no man's land right now. He got dominated by Belal. There's going to be no rush for him to get a rematch. But if Leon and Masvidal do a nice little build on a nice main card fight, we get to settle this feud. Leon can put him behind forever. Let's just do that, man. Let's just do it and get it done. Like, people will care. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. I don't think many people believe Jorge Masvidal will win that fight. But let's just go ahead and do it. Like, this just makes sense. Like, let's just settle this. It'll bolster up a card. And if Leon wins and Shafkat wins, Leon's back on his way. Let's just do it.
I see Left Lane saying MVP. I definitely strongly considered it. But I think MVP, again, I just don't like that matchup for him. I think he loses. I think they should keep trying to build up MVP. I know he's a bit in the latter stage of his career, but I think they can still get a lot out of him in the cage. And obviously, it looks like he's going to be ready to transition to broadcasting whenever he decides to hang it up. He was great all week, MVP, when they used him for fight week stuff. So big shout out to MVP. But yeah, I don't want to see him and Leon just yet. Maybe down the road. Masvidal, Mike, I didn't dare to dream that big. Yeah, it's
not actually that big anymore.
I don't know. I think it still is. And I just feel like it makes so much sense. And it's made so much sense in the past. Maybe I've just given up on them making it happen. But yeah, no one would complain. I can't imagine anyone complaining if they said Masvidal Edwards next. That's the way to go.
Let's move on to the interim heavyweight champion of the world. Tommy Aspinall should be the co-heavyweight champion of the world. Goes out and just beats Curtis Blaydes, who just did Curtis Blaydes things, didn't try to shoot a takedown. He landed a punch and then was like, yep, I'm the best striker in the UFC. And then he got knocked out seconds later by Tom Aspinall. And now Tom's in an interesting spot because I don't think he did the thing. I still think he should have tried to take John Jones's future food and called out Alex Pereira. He still kind of was like, John, I love you. You're a good dude, great fighter, but I'm just better than you. And fine. I don't know if that fight happens. I would like it to happen. I'd love to live in a world where that fight happens. I just don't know if it does. So I'm not going to live in that positive land because I do think John is going to beat up Stipe. He's either going to call out Alex Pereira or he's going to leave and retire or at least take a long break. So there's a fight coming up at Abu Dhabi in October. Cyril Gane versus Volkov 2. And I think Tom Aspinall will either defend the interim heavyweight title against one of those gentlemen, or if he gets bumped up to the actual heavyweight champion, then that will be his first actual heavyweight championship title defense. But God, I don't think he's fighting John, and it sucks ass.
I am going to live in the land of positivity, Mike. It's John
Let's
Jones.
go!
It's John
Let's
Jones.
go!
John Jones beats Stipe, does not retire. Just, again, as much as we rag on Jones for not taking the Aspinall fight so far, and more so for selling his reasons for not taking the fight in kind of a dishonest way, the circumstance, it's not like the circumstances have been perfect for it. John was supposed to fight Stipe, last November. This was supposed to be over with already. If he hung around, I do believe he would have fought Tom Aspinall again. We've been poking a lot of fun. Jed's loved, calling him a chicken. Chickens can't be goats and all that. But John did get injured. He's not sitting on the sidelines because, he's just choosing not to fight. He's sitting on the sidelines because he got injured for a while. And clearly the Miocic fight has been waiting for him this whole time. Miocic wants it. Dana White is obsessed with it. And I'm sure there is a portion of the fan base that is into it. Like, all you hardcores out there in the comments, us in the media, of course we want to see Aspinall Jones over that by far. But there's you gotta remember, there's a big casual crowd that isn't commenting on the internet all the time, isn't scrutinizing the news day by day, might not even know who Tom Aspinall is. And yeah,
they might not even know who Stipe is.
And they might not, of course, Stipe is not some household name. Stipe is not Conor McGregor, but there was a stretch where, he had some degree of fame. And probably at his peak was more well known than Aspinall is now. Not like by a lot. Again, not saying Stipe is a household name, but at his peak was probably more famous than Aspinall is now. Maybe not going forward. Maybe not for this win. Aspinall's star is rising so much. He's so great with the media. His fights are incredibly exciting. He's everything the UFC should want in a champion and a front-facing star. But I get the whole Miocic thing. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate here. I don't need to see Stipe fight again. He's a great fighter. He has nothing more to prove. Good for him if he gets the Jones fight in a big payday. But yeah, I'm sticking with the path that we all want to see, where Jones wins. We get Aspinall on him. I don't know when it could happen. I honestly don't know. You're right. If Jones even bothers with this, especially with the Alex Pereira now an option, because I'm sure there's people who'd rather see that fight than Tom Aspinall versus John Jones as well. So John Jones will have a lot of excuses not to fight Aspinall. It sucks to say, but I'm waving my magic wand, and John, you are going to get in there with Tommy Aspinall in 2025. But do I believe this is a likelihood? I say this with no confidence. This won't be one of the predictions I'm making when we do that kind of thing at the end of the year, Mike. But if I was Dana White, if I was the matchmakers, and I could make this happen, this is the way I would go.
Let's move on to Paddy the Batty, who really woke that crowd up at 4:30 in the morning. By the time he made his walk, takes on King Green in a fight everybody was very intrigued by, and Paddy Pimblett just goes out there. Leg kicks.
Oh, wait, Mike.
On the feet.
Wait, Mike. Sorry to interrupt. We didn't say you and I spoke about this, but we didn't explain. Normally, we do the losing person in a championship fight. I think we have to make a note of we are not doing Curtis Blaydes. You may notice you get me skipped. Yeah, someone in the it was not Curtis's day. Normally, again, championship fights, interim or otherwise, we do the loser, but it's just hard to book for him at this point because Curtis Blaydes is a great heavyweight. When we look back on this this generation of fighters, whatever, I don't know what if you want to call this era, the ESPN era, I don't know. He'll go down as one of the 5 best heavyweights. Okay, he's great. He's a great fighter, but we know his ceiling. He's not just a fighter who if he was in a different time in a different era, he just couldn't get past Francis, and he just couldn't get past Tom Aspinall. It's like, and that's not true, right? We saw him fight Sergey Pavlovich. He got cracked. We saw him fight Derek Lewis. He got cracked. Again, other guys that are great heavyweights. No shame in losing to them. But losing to them does kind of put a cap on how high you can rank Curtis. And he sort of talks about is he one of the best heavyweights to never win UFC title? It's like, well, no, because we saw him lose to Sergey, we saw him lose to Derek. So I would already put them above him. He's got a great resume. Curtis Blaydes does not have to explain to anyone. If he never wins a title, I don't think it matters. Again, he's a very, very, very good fighter. But we just don't have a lot to say about it because he's going to end up, he might rematch someone. He might fight there's so many guys in the top 10, top 15 you can throw him in there with. And it was a pretty poor showing. And I think disappointing for any Curtis Blaydes fans out there that he lost again by a first round knockout in a way that he has so many times before. So yeah, send us your picks in the comments, guys. We'll read those out for sure.
This, it was a minute, but that was the biggest fear of anybody who's backing Curtis Blaydes was the way he fought. was like, if he lands a good punch, he's not even going to try to shoot a takedown the entire fight. And that's exactly what happened. And even admitted as such, like he landed a good shot, felt it, team just screaming at him. And then he said, like, we had this perfectly crafted game plan that absolutely would have worked, but you guys didn't get a chance to see it. They got annihilated. So tough scenes. But yeah, Curtis is just such a wild card. Insert any heavyweight and it makes sense. And there you go. But let's go to Paddy Pimblett. Puts Bobby Green to sleep. Speaking of not great fight IQ, Bobby Green might be at the top of that list following this because, one, he didn't really throw anything. He talked a lot of trash, but didn't throw barely threw any strikes. And then he got leg kicked and then decided that his big move was going to be a takedown of Paddy. And that led to a ghillie attempt, which was transitioned quickly into a triangle, one that ended the fight, put Bobby Green unconscious. And Bobby may have been out for quite some time before the fight was actually stopped. But big win for Paddy, silences some doubters. And come Tuesday, AK, Paddy Pimblett's going to have a ranking in the UFC. He might actually have a ranking in the MMA Fighting Global Rankings based on what I've seen so far. He will be my number 15 lightweight when it is all said and done. Yeah, it's happening, man. It's happening. But a lot of interesting options for Paddy the Baddy, AK. Where are we going?
First, let's give Paddy a little bit of credit. I think he was doing okay on the feet. Yes, we can certainly.
Oh yeah, dude, he was beating Bobby's ass.
Yeah. We can certainly criticize Bobby Green as well because literally before the fight starts, Mike, I'm in the Slack and I'm asking you guys, how does Paddy win this fight? Because in my fight prediction, I'm like, Bobby Green does not get dominated in the grappling unless your name is Islam Makhachev. Bobby Green doesn't get submitted. He'd been submitted twice in his entire career. And he's fought some great grapplers, great submission guys, and hadn't been submitted since 2009. I was like, there's no way like Paddy just forces to the ground and just dominates him down there. There's no way. And I don't think over 3 rounds that he can win a striking battle with Bobby. Like, I think if this had stayed on the feet, I think Bobby Green would have adjusted. I do think he would have still won a striking battle as well as Paddy was doing. But going to the ground in that way was just, I couldn't have predicted that. I couldn't predict that. That's why I don't bet on anything. Thank goodness I didn't bet on this fight because I would have bet on a Green underdog, a plus money win. And
Green was a favorite.
I don't know. He was favored. Bobby Green.
He sure was. Yep. It was a slight favorite, but I bet on Paddy as an underdog and felt real good about it.
Congrats. I would have had Bobby as a parlay. But either way, Bobby, then I would have put as a parlay piece. Bobby Green would have cost me money. All right, Bobby. I would have very much liked to throw Bobby Green King Green in a parlay. But for anyway, what we can. This is the King Green story. Okay, this is the King Green story. King Green stuff just happens when King Green fights. There's fights that it feels like he should have won for sure, and he just loses. There's fights where he's like, oh, he can't beat this guy, and he wins. I think he's not getting his Jorge Masvidal mainstream boost anytime soon. I think that's finally done. I think this was the moment, Mike. If King had starched Paddy Pimblett, this would have been here we go. Now he's getting that going from street legend to big box office draw. This was it. We still have a lot of great fights for King Green, but he is who he is, and God love him for it. Paddy, I went with Mike, a pick I've made before. I think I did this last December as after the Tony fight. Yeah, I'm doing it again. You know what? Doing it. Michael Chandler. The Conor McGregor fight is not happening. And not anytime soon anyway. I don't believe it. I know all signs point to December. Conor seems like it's healthy. Chandler has been waiting patiently. There seems to be no further complications in the way of Chandler and McGregor happening before the end of the year. Everyone's saying the right thing. Dana White did not kind of agree with that talk. He didn't confirm that there was discussions about it, but that doesn't mean it's not happening. Dana White's going to not, be fully transparent about everything. He's a businessman. Conor does say for the end of the year. Michael Chandler, obviously very hopeful. So if they don't fight December, I know people will be surprised, but I'm done, man. I'm done. I love the Ultimate Fighter. I would say Ultimate Fighter 31's got to be resolved. You can't wait on this matchup. I still want to see Pimblett and Michael Chandler. And I've seen people saying, well, don't do that because they want Pimblett to win. Listen, they said that about Tony Ferguson at once upon a time too. They said, well, Tony could still beat Pimblett. And I'm like, no, not at this point in his career. I thought King Green was going to beat Paddy. I was wrong there. So how do I feel about Michael Chandler? I don't know if there's a world where he doesn't beat Michael Chandler now. I think Paddy, and I've said this many times, is so much better than people think. Give him the Chandler fight. If Chandler wins, guess what? That McGregor fight is still out there as long as McGregor doesn't fight someone else, which is a very good chance he doesn't fight at all. So yes, I know it's crazy, but this is this was crazy when I said it last year. I'm sticking with it now. Pimblett Chandler, I still want that.
No, I love you, AK.
Fair.
Just no.
Fair.
Because look, if Chandler doesn't fight Connor, he's fighting for the belt, which will make me so angry. I'd rather see him fight Paddy, but that's just kind of where we're at this point. I mean, we understand it at this point. I understand that everybody wants to see Paddy Pimblett versus Renato Moicano, and it would be fun. But we also have to remember a couple of things. One, Renato Moicano is already booked. He's going to be headlining a card in Paris.
Yes.
And that is a very big deal. They're not going to bump him from that. And Renato Moicano, who wants to make money, is going to make more money fighting Benoit Saint-Denis at UFC Paris in a main event than he will be fighting Paddy Pimblett. It's just the reality of the situation. I'm going to say something I've never said on to the next one. I said it for the first time on MMA fighting programming last night, and I'll reiterate it here. For the first time ever, I agree with Ali Abdelaziz. He put out the matchup. He's absolutely spot on. The fight to make is Paddy Pimblett versus Beneil Dariush. That is the one.
Ooh.
Go ahead and do that, because I will say this about the UFC matchmakers. When they want to build a guy up, they do it perfectly. When they truly are thinking about, I want to get this guy from here to here, let's put him in the best possible positions to succeed. This isn't the same as the Sean O'Malley build, but it is very close. The way that they started off with Paddy, slowly building him up, giving him a guy like Tony Ferguson, who we knew would probably beat him, but he's still a very big name. Then we give him a ranked guy, a very winnable fight for him. I thought this is a super winnable fight for Paddy. All he had to do was just find a way to just not getting to a boxing match with Bobby Green, and he wins. And he went out there and won. I was pretty confident once I saw a plus 120 next to Paddy's name a week and a half ago. I'm jumping all over that. That is just a steal. And the fight went not exactly the way I thought it would, but Paddy winning was no surprise to me. I thought this is anybody in the top 15, this was the best fight for him. No doubt about it. And they did it brilliantly. I also think at this point, I think he can beat, I think Dariush he can beat Dariush, man. I think he can beat him. He's just so much bigger than him. And he's coming off a couple of losses. He got brutally knocked out in his last fight. I don't hate it, man. Like, let's just throw him to the wolves. Let's just see what happens. Sink or swim time. Paddy's still going to make money. He's still going to be over. He's still going to be an A-side fighter through most of his career. If he beats Beneil Dariush, then we can seriously look at him as a title threat. If he loses, so what? It doesn't hurt him at all.
Yeah.
He can still be in featured fights on UK pay-per-views or on UK fight night cards. Place will go bananas. It's huge. But if you're going to do a fight like this, you're going to build him up against a guy who has cachet in this division as a good, solid fighter. Do it, Benny D, man. Do it, Benny D. And the Moicano fight, it's a back pocket fight. You can go to that anytime you want. Anytime. You can do that 3 years from now, and it'll still be as cool as it is now. So let's go. Let's do Benny D, and let's see what he's got.
I love it because, the other thing, you mentioned his size, that he would be much bigger than Beneil. This is lightweight, where it's the youth routinely, routinely eat the old. That's just how it is. This is not heavyweight. This is not a division where when you get to your, 35 and over, you're still like the same guy. You can still approximate what you were like 5 years ago. This is tough, man. This is division. This featherweight, bantamweight. Obviously, the smaller you go, the more size and athleticism and speed matter. Paddy's got quite a bit of that. I don't know if he's the fastest guy, but he is, or the most athletic guy. But he's got enough of both. Very strong. That's for sure. Very strong guy. And yes, he's big. He's big for the weight class. And I'm just looking at, so the Tony Ferguson fight. He's about 10 years younger than Tony. King Green about 9 years younger than King Green. And Beneil, surprisingly, the youngest actually of that bunch. Beneil's 35, Paddy's 29 right now. So he's gonna have this is really good matchmaking. This is sort of both what is why I praise the matchmakers for what they've been giving him. Big name guys who are just a little bit older, where maybe he's not as skilled as these guys in some departments, but at 155, youth, size, and athleticism can go a long way, really in any division, but especially in 155 as if there's a big age gap. So yeah, I like the idea, and it's someone else who, like you said, Mike, he beats him. Oh my gosh, he doesn't just have a number next to his name, Mike. We're talking about top 10 separate movies. We're talking about top 10 lightweight Paddy Pimblett, something that I always said was a possibility. People said I was crazy. And then, I mean, where do you go from there? And then, heaven help us, we could be having title challenger Paddy Pimblett someday. So UFC's doing a really good job of this. Again, I thought the King Green fight was a bit of a trap, but he couldn't have won that fight in more impressive fashion, I'll tell you.
Yeah, he's probably the MVP of the card. After that, like, he woke that place up. Aspinall is great too, obviously, but let's move on. Lots of options for Paddy Pimblett. He couldn't be in a better position right now. Still undefeated in the UFC. Man's doing work. Got to give him credit where it's due. Let's go to Gregory Rodriguez. Gets a cashed underdog ticket on that fight as well. Defeats Christian Leroy Duncan. Bloody battle. Fun fight. And he gets the win. I'll go first. RoboCop versus B. Joe Piper. That's where I'm going.
Oh, we went in very different directions. I want my man RoboCop in the top 10, Mike.
Ooh.
Mike, I want my man RoboCop in the top 5 of the UFC. All right? This is where I'm going with RoboCop.
Kamaru Usman?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, middleweight. I didn't even think that fight was that bad. I don't know. I know Dana was harping, and I guess some people, I got fans as well, were kind of harping like, oh no, 7 straight decisions. But like some of those decisions were good fights.
This fight was super fun.
I really liked this. Okay, I'm not crazy. I enjoyed this fight. I know it was a clear Rodriguez win, but he's one of the few guys who I want to see mix the martial arts, just because he does it. Like early on, he wasn't doing it as much when he started his UFC career. He's doing it more now. His last 3 fights, he's mixed the martial arts more because he's a super elite grappler, but also he does have that natural knockout power. You can see how much he enjoys like slugging it out in the feet, right? He's just, some guys just hit hard, man. Some guys just hit hard. This dude hits hard. But he's got to mix in the grappling too, which he did against CLD, which makes sense. CLD is a great striker. So yeah, I like Greg Rodriguez. I just feel like, I know he's 32. He just looks like he's 42, and I feel like he's got some combat sports mileage on him as well. I want to let's see what we have. Is he a guy who could fight for a title someday? I don't think so. I think he has a ceiling, but I'm curious. I know he's not far off from the loss to like Bruno Ferreira, but Mike, what do you think of Gregory Rodriguez and Jared Cannonier?
Oh, okay.
What do you think of that?
I don't hate it.
I don't think it's like Cannonier would be favored, but I don't think it's like Cannonier is going to like annihilate this guy. Or maybe I'm wrong, and then that'd be great for Cannonier. Just show people like, hey, I am a legit top 5 guy. I'm not a guy whose spot is just here to get taken. But I think that's a competitive fight, and I think it's a fight that RoboCop can win. So I'm curious, man. And if he wins again, like we said, instant top 5. I'm getting a little loopy with my picks here, by the way. You'll see that with Arnold Allen too, probably.
I wouldn't hate him versus like Marvin Vettori either. Like if they want to take that shot, like I wouldn't hate it.
Thought about it.
Middleweight's just crazy right now. There's just a lot happening. So good pick. I like it a lot. Just like I liked the performance, especially in the last 2 rounds from AAA himself, Arnold Allen, with maybe the most weight per capita in the corner I have ever seen. Just bodybuilders everywhere in the corner of AAA. Holy moly. Dude looked real good. Tough start. Gia came up firing. Great first round. And then Arnold starting to get real aggressive, getting real frosty with it. And then just started thumping Giga up a little bit. Had Giga moving backwards and gets the win. Back on track. Snaps the 2-fight skid. Much needed win for Arnold Allen in a super fun featherweight division. AK, where are we going with AAA?
I think it's time to give him Yair. I feel like we've done this matchup before, maybe, or at least fans have. I think it's what they've been in the same orbit, right? It's never felt like the right time. It's never felt like, oh, it's a lock, like Allen and Yair gotta fight. I think they're in the right orbit now. They also have other options. Yair is not at the Sphere, right? Not fighting the Sphere, right?
No, he's not.
That's strange. I don't know where
I have to put this up because it's just an absolutely insane take.
Let me see.
Just an absolutely insane.
You go rounds 1 and 2. You can't.
Absolutely insane take. Yeah. No. What fight were you watching? Come on. Easy one. But come on. That's an insane take.
Yeah, competitive fight though, Mike. Competitive fight. I won't be as critical, but a competitive fight. But yeah, good win for Arnold Allen. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what Yair's plan is with his career now. He might be a guy who fights like once a year. He's going to pick his spots because it's tough. He's been in these contender fights. He's lost some fight. It's a hard road for Yair to get back to the featherweight title or featherweight title opportunity, I should say. And Arnold Allen would be a big win. I mean, it would certainly keep him on track. Arnold is behind him in the rankings, but is a top 10 opponent. It's a good style matchup too. I think it'd be a really great fight. So just a fan, I want to see that. And for both guys, yes, definitely title implications. But whoever loses, it's a high risk fight too. You're definitely not exiting the conversation permanently, but boy, it's a long road back to the top of 145.
So after the matchup was announced by one Dana White, one man that I had previously rebooked for another featherweight is now back on the table because I said Diego Lopez versus this man after he defeated Dan Ige on just hours notice. And now Josh Emmett back on the table. So let's do Arnold Allen versus Josh Emmett. I'm cool with that. If they do Yair, I ain't going to complain. I see a lot of people, and I saw this a lot on social media. Let's do Arnold Allen versus Volkanovski. Volk's never taken that fight. He shouldn't touch that fight with a 10-foot pole. Dude's either going to get a big fight at 55 against a big name, or he's going to fight for the belt. So why risk it against Arnold Allen?
Yep.
But yeah, Josh Emmett's good. Yair's good. Diego Lopez, Brian Ortega winner is good. All good. All good options. Let's go to the wild card round, AK. This is one of the weirdest ones. We're just going to matchmake for one fighter we have not matchmade for yet, and we'll just do it now. I had no idea where to go with this.
Really?
Yeah, I put all the extra names in a random generator, and whatever name was at the top of the list, that's who I chose. And I chose like the winners of the other fights and the losers of the fights we didn't matchmake for.
Okay.
And I got a random generator, and I picked it, and I just went with whoever I got. There's nothing that like spoke to me.
Wait, so
what did you end up with?
It could be like Preston Parsons. You're telling me that you threw in all the losers as well.
I sure did.
Okay, that'd be great. I hope you got Preston Parsons because I can't imagine where you. Okay, I had some tangents I wanted to go on at first. I was like, I was gonna like Mick Parkin. I thought like I was gonna make a joke that he should fight like he should be the one to welcome Alex Pereira to the heavyweight division. He almost serving as like Marab to Tom Aspinall's Aljamain. Like he's like his bodyguard, you know what I mean? Because Mick Parkin is now 10-0 guys in heavyweight and 4-0 in the UFC. Now, could your average person name 3 out of those 4 UFC wins? God, no. He's beating the guys around his tier outside of the top 15. But 4-0 is 4-0. $100,000 bonus after a very impressive knockout of Lucas Brzezinski. It was a great night for Tom Aspinall and his buddies. We'll say that much. I think McParkin certainly deserves matchmaking recognition, but again, I don't think he's getting any extravagant fight at heavyweight right now. They're just going to keep him churning along. Maybe he should get a top 15 guy, or maybe one more fight away from top 15. But either way, whatever they're doing with McParkin, it's working. Don't mess with that. But it would be funny if he did have to. If Pereira had to go through him first to fight Tommy, and he probably would, or McParkin would just be a hoss somehow and completely ruin everything. And then I also thought Alice Ardelian, I thought would have been funny because I'm sure this lady's going to take a lot of flack for getting signed because of her social media following, 3 million TikTok followers, not having a great record. But let's be honest, people. Let's be honest. Your average person could not tell the difference between that fight and the average Contender Series reject Apex slop that we have been getting for week after week. Okay, let's be honest. And I know you guys can. You guys watching in the comments can. You're smart because you are smart viewers. You know this stream. Good MMA, bad MMA. But this, to most people, looked like perfectly acceptable opening card MMA fight. And she won on one of the cards, justifiable or not. Alice Ardelian can say she won a UFC scorecard. She deserves another opportunity, but I'm not going to make a matchup for her. I just hope this wasn't a one and done thing. Stepped in on short notice, did the UFC a solid, and I think we will see her again. Is she any good? I don't know, guys. Probably not, but she deserves another fight. So, Mike, I did land on the obvious. I went with the obvious. We got to talk about Mokaev. I know you guys did a bunch of the post-fight show. We got to talk about Mokaev. Now, I just said straight up, I still want to see the Pantoja fight. I know he's technically not re-signed yet. I shouldn't say technically. We know he's not re-signed yet. I know he didn't blow the doors off with that performance. We had a very lengthy discussion in the Slack among the staff, with a lot of us saying, boy, no matter who wins this, if you had never seen either of these guys fight before, this is the first time you saw Kopp and Mokaev fight, you would not be like, wow, these are two of the top 5 flyweights in the world. I need to see one of these guys fight Pantoja. You would not think that. You would not think that. It's a technical fight. I'm not blaming either guy for not going in there and just like slinging it out or going balls to the wall, fight of the night effort. That's not what they do. They've never been like that. So I don't know why people were expecting that. It was a highly technical fight, not a crowd pleaser, and not a fight where either guy left with like, oh, just definitively beating the other guy. Yeah, you could have gone either way with this card. I wouldn't have been mad at it. But I do want to see him still fight Pantoja. So keeping it simple, Mike, keeping it basic. Mokaev has earned this. And based on his comments, admitting post-fight so many things, one, claiming that the UFC asked him not to wrestle, and two, saying, I'm not even looking at any other organization, he might be the first person to get a title shot and make less than 6 figures for it, because they apparently can pay him whatever they want and he'll come back. So give him the title fight on a 45 and 45 deal or something.
I don't think he's coming back, man. At least not now. I think this is going to be he's still going to fight somewhere else, but I think this is going to be a we can't miss you if you don't go away type situation.
This is crazy.
I just think
this is crazy.
Look, man,
7, 6,
sometimes
7-0? This is crazy.
Yeah, but sometimes you have to weigh the risk versus reward. This guy is a giant pain in the ass.
Yes.
But is he worth the hassle overall, being a giant pain in the ass? Because New York Rick asked this on the post-fight show. What's the difference between Mokaev being an asshole and the assholes who have come before him that the UFC did not let go?
Mm-hmm.
And the correct answer is because those other assholes drew money. Muhammad Mokaev doesn't draw a dime for the UFC. He just doesn't. His fighting style is not fan-friendly. He just ain't worth the hassle right now. Now, do I think he will never step foot in the octagon again? No, I do think he will step foot in the octagon again, but he will be 27 and more mature, and it'll be a little bit of a while. And who knows? Maybe he becomes the flyweight Phil DeFries and finds success outside of the UFC. Maybe he goes to Ryzen and has some fun and fights Kyoji Horiguchi and guys like that. Like, that's fun. Maybe he goes to PFL and fights Patchy Mix, or they introduce a flyweight division. He just ain't worth it, man. Like, I actually don't hate this take from Dana. He didn't cut him. Let's just make this perfectly clear, because I saw a lot of people saying, didn't he get released? No, he didn't get released. There's no cut. There's no release. Now,
last fight on his contract. Last fight.
Yeah.
That was the last fight in his contract. Yeah.
If he had like 3 fights left in his deal and Dana went up to the press conference and said, I'm cutting him, that's a different story. That's a different conversation altogether. Probably a little bit unfair. But this is his last fight in his deal. He's free to do whatever they want. And the UFC is free to do whatever they want. 7-0, number 1 contender, whatnot. It don't matter. They gave this man a chance to get re-signed and be an undeniable title challenger. And that's the fight we got. That's the performance we got. There was more action in the off-site brawls. There was more action when Mokaev stepped foot in the octagon and 50 security guards jumped into the cage than there was in the actual fight. Plus, he cheated and tried to pants Manel Kopp and didn't get a point taken.
That's in his favor. Come on, we want to see. I think Dana White would. I think we should all applaud that. That was hilarious.
Yeah, that's what I just knew. Like honestly, there should be 15 minutes in every gym of cheating, cheating class, because they're just not going to call it. Because 30 seconds later, Mike Beltran literally is staring at Muhammad Mokaev, poking Manel Kopp in the eye. He watched it happen, and he didn't even stop it. He didn't even stop the fight. It was insane. Kicked him in the balls multiple times. Like, there was literally,
and he won.
And his wording, as he's yelling and screaming, being the disappointed dad, was, "Don't make me enforce the rules." What?
Yeah, this was
what is happening here?
This was classic. This is classic Mike Beltran, getting as much camera time as possible while not doing anything effectively in the cage. Sorry for all you Mike Beltran fans out there. Bad referee.
Oh, he was bad.
Terrible. And
he let Leon Edwards.
Yeah,
he let Leon Edwards grab the fence 18 times against Belal. Horrible. Like, he's just so bad, man.
He likes me on camera. He likes me on camera.
Really bad night.
Yeah, terrible.
I do. But look, at the same token, just because Dana says something in a press conference doesn't mean it's true. So, like, if they re-signed him, it wouldn't shock me. But I honestly think they're going to let him go. Like, let him go to wherever. PFL is not who Don Davis believes they are. PFL is, in the UFC's eyes, PFL is a developmental organization. So that's why they didn't sign Paul Hughes. Let PFL throw 6 figures at Paul Hughes. They're not going to do it. Why would they? But if Paul Hughes gets over and becomes a star with PFL and his contract comes up, who do you think Paul Hughes' first phone calls to? It ain't re-sign me, PFL. Let's go to the UFC now that I'm a star, and the UFC can accentuate that star power. So, yeah, I think he's gone, and it's okay. You can find success outside of it. He needs to grow up quite a bit. And then him going to the post-fight press conference and basically admitting that I needed to sucker punch Manel Kopp at the hotel was ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
I didn't even mention that.
Crazy.
That was, I can't remember, like, he annihilated his brand this week. If his brand was already like not great, he destroyed it this week. Everything was a miss. Everything with him was, other than winning, other than getting a win, great. Getting a win, of course, the most important thing. Other than that, everything was a miss. Yeah, the antics, admitting he sucker punched another fighter. What are you doing? Fighters, deny till you die. We like when people are honest. We like when people are real. This is a situation where you do not just straight up say like, yeah, I tricked him to taking a picture so I could punch him. Hilarious story for us, but I guarantee you the majority of the fan base is not going to look upon that favorably, especially when in the actual fight you just don't do anything that impressive. So, and Kopp didn't either. Neither guy was a world beater on this night, but Mokaev's the one who won. Mokaev's the one who's going to have more scrutiny on his performance. Mokaev's the one who's making the comments. Dana White's making comments on him. It was rough. Now, again, my main reason for thinking he's going to come back is I think he's going to work for cheap. His whole I'm not looking at any other organization thing is just such self-sabotage. I think he comes back. You're right. Does he get the Pantoja fight after that?
God,
maybe not. But I still want to see that fight, honestly. And because Pantoja, I think, will bring out whatever excitement we can out of Muhammad Mokaev's fighting style. But it would just be unprecedented. Like, we've just never seen someone with this much potential, this young, undefeated, just get, just let them walk. We've never seen that before. And again, we've never seen a lot of things. We say this all the time in the modern era of the UFC. Oh, I've never seen that before. So this could just be the latest thing. And when MMA becomes big business, but I still think he comes back.
Bad night for Muhammad Mokaev. Bad night for Manel Kopp. Great night for Tetsuro Taira. Great night for Kaya Sakura. Great night for those two guys. So we'll see what happens. And yeah, I actually don't hate this take from Dana. I really don't. And he didn't kill him. I mean, he was underhanded in a still poke and prod kind of way, but he was like, yeah, PFL is going to get a really talented, undefeated fighter.
Yeah. That's a compliment.
I mean,
really a great compliment when you think about it.
Yeah. Like old Dana would have been, yeah, PFL is going to get an undefeated piece of shit asshole. But Dana didn't say that. He didn't say that. He's such growth.
What growth our little Dana has shown here.
So in my random generator, I landed on King Green. Green.
Sure. You landed on Preston Parsons. You re-rolled it. Come on.
No, it landed on King Green, and I didn't even want to pick him. And my first choice was I actually was upset about it because I was hoping for something funnier, like Preston Parsons or even the TikTok lady or even Shauna Bannon or somebody like that. But I get King Green. And at first I'm like, okay, let's do Drakkar Klose. And then I realized it was a rematch and Drakkar Klose already beat him. So we don't need to do that. And then I dug a little deeper. I saw Rumor and Innuendo. And then I jumped on the old Tapology pages and realized that there's no opponent for this man. So King Green, you seem like a nice fella. You're a wily veteran. I have a lot of respect for you. And boy, am I sorry that I have to do this. I'm very, very sorry. Then now you will have to step foot in the hallowed octagon with Mick Tebek oral by. Sorry, bro.
Wow.
Sorry, dude.
Wow. That'd be a nice win for Mick Tebek, but
it sure would be.
Again, King Green is so unpredictable. You never know. He could just beat Mick Tebek and put a little dent in the hype train. But yeah,
I don't think he does, but he could.
MMA is supposed to be fun. That's a fun matchup. King Green will fight anybody. I don't think he says. I don't think he cares. You send him that name. He can't. He like most of us probably can't even pronounce it properly. He's still signing on the dotted line. So yeah, it's good.
Absolutely. All right, we got 5 minutes. Rapid fire. Let's go. Big Rocker Johnson. Wood versus Ige. That was a fun fight too. Nathaniel Wood versus Daniel Pineda. Daniel Pineda, $2 stake tough. And see, I was right. Daniel Pineda at plus 310 was a travesty. It was a travesty.
Yeah.
I'm happy I made that bet because that was not a fight that played out like a guy who's a plus 310 underdog.
No, it's competitive.
Just saying, he won the third round. You could have made a case that he won the first. I didn't think so, but way more competitive. 30-27 was kind of a bad card, though. Wood versus Ige, CDF versus Bobby Green. Man, movie. Oban Elliott, Mike and AK. I don't think it matters.
I was hoping that you got that. Again, that's another name I would have got. No, yeah, listen, Oban just keep chugging along.
Yeah, man.
Doing a good job with the media, 2-0 in the UFC. You know, I have him now in my top 40 at welterweight, which I guess I know people are like, oh, top 40, that sounds so low. Like, yeah, this is where he should be. I mean, he could easily jump into the top 30 with the next fight. We'll see. But yeah, I don't think we need to make any big projections for Oban just yet. Yeah, let's just keep an eye on him though.
Yeah, just get him out there and let him fight. Wood versus Ige from Tristan. Sam Patterson, my lock of the night. Boy, did he deliver. I mean, that was like the biggest no-brainer pick of the card against Kiefer Crosby, who may not be long for this UFC world. And Mick Parkin versus Martin Budai.
Headliner. That's a headliner, Mike. That's a headliner.
That's an Apex to Apex fight.
Yep.
Belal versus Shavkat. Edwards versus JDM. Pimblett versus Dariush. Robocop versus Kopylov. Is Roman booked?
He gets out of fight.
Oh, no, he was. He's out of
the fight. Changed, right? Yeah, he had a fight change, right?
Yeah, he's out of the fight. Allen versus Yair.
Yep.
Wood versus Onama. Mokaev versus Brandon Moreno. No chance that fight.
I don't know what to say. This Mokaev thing was so hilarious. Just I don't want to say hilarious. It's somewhat depressing as well, just because of God to be so talented and just making so many wrong moves. It's frustrating to watch. It's very frustrating to watch.
Colostrum. I'm a fair man. I brought you up on screen, called you out for a bad take earlier, but I'm gonna even the playing field here. The weights of justice are gonna balance because this is fun as hell, man.
That's good.
Nathaniel Wood versus Hyder Emil. Come on.
That's a good matchup.
Come on. Love that one. Hyder Emil versus the world. Like, just fight, just trot him out there every 3 weeks. The true Welsh idiot. Belal Shavkat, JDM versus Usman. I don't know why we're doing JDM versus Usman. We're just booking the entire welterweight division. Okay. JDM versus Usman, Edwards versus Gary.
Shout out to Wales. Who was our Wales fighters last night? We had Oban. I'm sorry. I was like, who is it? I know that we had some Wales representation. Yeah. Shout out to Oban.
Who else got a bonus last night? Patty, Tom, and Mick Parkin, right? Patty got two bonuses.
Was it. Patty got the double. People are saying instead of a fight of the night bonus, he just gave 2 performance bonuses to Patty. I really think that was stick it to King Green, because King Green was the one who kind of coaxed him into doubling it. So I think he was kind of like, you know what? It'll be super funny if you made this happen and your opponent got all the bonuses and you got none. That seems like something Dana and company would do.
That's a theory. My theory is this is Dana repaying Patty for giving them a discount for re-signing.
Sure.
Because I had said the entire time, which people misinterpreted, and I still had to answer to this yesterday. I don't know how many times I have to say this. I never said Patty is leaving the UFC. I never said Patty should leave the UFC. What I did say was Patty, because of this matchup, and I felt very positive that Patty was going to win this fight, that he should wait. He should wait to re-sign until after the fight. You know, maybe take an offer, maybe take a phone call meeting with somebody. Maybe get an offer from PFL and just be like, yo, PFL offered me this. I ain't going there, but this is what they offered me. And then the UFC is like, yeah, cool. Don't go there. We're not going to give you this, but we'll bump you up to this. All right, cool. We're back in business. I think he got a discount from the UFC to resign. One is because of the management. And I think, honestly, them re-signing Patty before the fight saved the UFC a bunch of money.
Yep.
So maybe this is them saying like, here, man, thank you. Appreciate that. Here's an extra $100K for saving us a ton of extra money in the long run. So yeah, a lot of people were like, oh, Mike was saying that Patty's going to leave and that he should go somewhere else and make more money. I never said that. I said, maximize your value, man. Like, this is a fight you can win. Go in there, go into free agency with the ranking next to your name. Do you know how much more money you would have made? Like, he probably made he's probably getting more than he would have fighting King Green without re-signing. But maximize that value, man. This might be the biggest contract you ever get. You know what I mean?
The negotiations on Monday morning or whenever they would have started making negotiations would be very different than they were last week. And
can you imagine what the storyline would be today if Paddy didn't resign? We would expect him to, but we'd expect it. Like I knew he wasn't going to leave, but I just wanted to see him make a bag. Yeah. Fuck me, right?
And I'm sure he's doing. I'm sure he got a good amount of money, but
I'm sure he did.
There's no question he could have gotten a much better amount of money. We'll never know. We won't get the full salary unless he fights somewhere where again that's just closed, which is fewer and farther between these days. But yeah, it does kind of suck. And hey, good for him getting the extra $200,000. Let's hope that he didn't make a mistake with the amount of money he signed for. But hey, maybe he fights for a title someday, and we don't even talk about this. I don't know.
I see a lot of people still giving Paddy shit that he's not getting better. I think he is getting better.
He's clearly getting better.
Yeah,
I think he was like.
I've turned on him being a ranked fighter, and I even felt that way heading into this fight. And even a lot of people giving him shit for not finishing Tony Ferguson, who is like the toughest dude in terms of durability and being unfinishable, unless Michael Chandler just kicks him in the face really hard out of nowhere. But dude is just shoe leather tough. But I saw growth in that fight, like very smart, mature performance from Paddy Pimblett. That showed me a lot. The physical condition he was in heading into this fight, his attitude, the entire build, he just seems like a more mature, serious athlete. He's growing on me a little bit. I gotta say. So good on him, and let's see what happens. Let's rifle through a few of these because I gotta get out of here. Wood versus Lerone Murphy, sure. Edwards versus Gary or MVP. I don't like the MVP fight.
I don't mind it. I don't think it happens.
He lost, dude. He lost.
It's okay. So did Leon.
Fight Joaquin Buckley. Do that. Come on, man. Come on. What else we got? A lot of Colby talk. RoboCop versus Vittori. Here we go. Hadley versus Peyton Talbot.
Do you think well, that's what I was going to ask. Is there a chance Hadley does stay at 135? He's not a small guy. He wouldn't be on the bigger end of the bantamweights, but he's had issues with 125 before. He did on the Contender Series. This one, obviously, he only went up to 135 because he was helping out the UFC on short notice. He did miss weight here too. So there's some weight cut issues. I feel like he should consider 135. He didn't look... Keelan Loughran could not just out-muscle him. I think Keelan Loughran thought I'm fighting a smaller guy. I'll just out-muscle him. He could not do that. I wonder if Hadley stays at 135.
You look good, man. Yeah, you look good.
You look fine.
Also, I don't think Colin Loughran's very good.
Oh,
either. I'm sorry.
Just doing.
I just don't think he's very good.
We need to wrap the show. This is where we're getting. This is what we're doing. We're picking on poor Keelan. Next, you're going to tell me you don't think Kiefer Crosby's that good. And then we're really gonna.
I called Sam Patterson the lock of the week.
You did,
incredible with so much confidence.
Check Mike Heck's Tapology. He did pick Sam Patterson first round submission. So there you go.
Yes,
you can put your money where your mouth is, Mike.
We might have to end the show with this, AK.
All right.
Let me see if we have anything. Let me scroll down. There is one that boy. Okay, let's do it, AK, because if there's anything I know about you, AK, there's two things you love more than anything. One, rematches, and two, heavyweight rematches. Jeffrey Rogers just may have won on to the next one. First, he has Oban Elliott versus Evan Elder, which I like. But AK, look at what leads the dance here.
Jeffrey...
Mick Parkin versus Mo Usman.
Well,
part 2, the rematch the world has been waiting for.
It's been a great show, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. It's really nowhere to go. Really nowhere to go from there.
We can't improve on the program.
So many unanswered questions, Mike. So many unanswered questions from that first fight, which happened 4 months ago. So many unanswered questions. Yeah, let's make it happen. Mo is on the coldest of cold streaks right now.
I take back my Contender Series saving idea of Mo Usman versus Parker Porter for the contract.
Yeah, Usman Parkin too. That's the way to go.
I love all of you. You guys are absolute animals waking up with us. I don't know what else to say. I'm exhausted. I got to pack up and get the hell out of here. And drive back to South Carolina. And then I'm on vacation for 9 days. So I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited. Taking a little breather. Cousin's getting married next weekend, so I get to go home to Massachusetts and see some fam and play in a golf tournament. It's just gonna be a good time. So we will lead you right into. Let me pull up this card. UFC Abu Dhabi coming up on Saturday. Some afternoon MMA, early day MMA, just the way we like it. Let me pull up this card. Tremendous main event, spectacular main event. This is going to air on ABC, by the way, in the US, the main card. Corey Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov. Shara Magomedov versus Mikhail Oleksiejczuk. Someone getting got real good in that one. We have Marlon Vera versus Davison Figueiredo. Tony Ferguson is back against Michael Chiesa. Mackenzie Dern versus Lupi Godinez. Joel Alvarez versus Elvis Brenner. Holy shit, that fight's going to be bananas. Alonzo Menafield versus Azamat Mirzakhanov. Excited to see Mirzakhanov back in there. Muhammad Yahya versus Kawi Fernandez. Shamil Gadziev, fresh off his first UFC main event against Dontel Mays. Guram Kutataladze versus Jordan Vucenic, making his UFC debut. Victoria Dudakova versus Sam Hughes. Jai Herbert getting another opportunity, taking on Rolando Bedoya, and kicking things off, Cedric Dumas versus Dennis Tolulin. That's UFC Abu Dhabi.
That's a nice card. That's a
nice
card.
Good.
I forgot that Vucenic was stepping a short notice replacement, but this is a guy who's really clearly a UFC level guy. Was fighting, excuse me, guys, was fighting for Cage Warriors. Good to see him. I mean, he should be getting like a normal opportunity, but hey, whatever gets him in there. Very tough matchup for his first fight.
Yes, Guram is no joke, but that's it. And stick with us, MMAfighting.com. We'll have MMA Hour tomorrow, MMA Hour on Wednesday. And shout out to Ariel doing some great work in Paris for the Olympics. So thank you very much. For AK, I am Mike Heck. Always remember the golden rule. Don't take this stuff too seriously. MMA is supposed to be fun. More fun to be had after UFC Abu Dhabi right here. And on to the next one, the podcast. Good night, everybody.